What's up guys, my name is Ace, and welcome back to Gun Guides. This is a series where I go in depth with all of the stats of every single one of the guns, as well as their variants in Infinite Warfare. In today's episode, we're going to be covering the Karma. Let's get into it. Alright guys, so starting off with the base stats of the Karma, we have a standard SMG damage profile here of 30, 23, 19. This means it's going to be a 4, 5, or 6 shot kill. Our rate of fire is, I would say, around average, maybe a bit on the slower side for SMGs at 769 rounds per minute. And that makes our time to kill 234 milliseconds up close within the 4-shot kill range, 312 milliseconds within the 5-shot kill range, and 390 milliseconds within the 6-shot kill range. So the Karma is clearly not the fastest time to kill SMG in the game, but it does have some other characteristics that make it quite a solid gun. For aim down sight time, it's standard for SMGs at 230 milliseconds. Same thing goes with sprint out time, standard for SMGs at 150 milliseconds. And our reload time, this is where it gets a little bit weird because the Karma actually has a different way of reloading. It has 2 magazines in the gun ready to use at any given time. Each of these magazines holds 21 rounds, and you can reload just one of them if you want, or you can wait until you reload both of them if you fall below a total of 21 shots left in your magazine. So if you're just reloading one magazine, just 21 rounds, you will reload in 1.22 seconds, but if you want to get that second magazine in there as well, you'll reload both in a total of 2.32 seconds. Movement speed is standard for SMGs at 98%, and magazine capacity is 42 rounds, but like I said, that's split between 2 different magazines, so it's like 21 rounds per magazine, but you can have a total of 42 rounds in your gun ready to go at any given time without extended mags. And this means your total starting ammo is 126 rounds. Now getting into the range values for the Karma, this is where it kind of shines when it comes to SMGs at least. It deals a 4-shot kill out to 15 meters, which is one of the best out of the SMG category. Of course, we're excluding the MACTAV here. The MACTAV is like a whole different animal. But for the other SMGs, the base SMGs, it's got an amazing 4-shot kill range. And its 5-shot kill range extends out to 20 meters, which is around standard as far as that goes. So this gun really excels in that sort of 10 to 15 meter range over other SMGs. You're not going to have that time to kill advantage in the closer ranges, but once you get to that sweet spot in the mid ranges, the Karma definitely shines. As for suppressor as well as rifled barrel, it's the same as with pretty much any other gun. You lose 25% of your range values if you pop a suppressor on there, and with rifled barrel you gain 20% to your ranges. If you did want to combine those two, you would get a net 10% reduction to your ranges. If you're wondering if these attachments are worthwhile, I would say it just comes down to playstyle completely. If you're planning on keeping your gunfights fairly close, suppressor is still a great option, but rifled barrel isn't a bad choice at all with the Karma in my opinion. As for our hipfire spread, this is standard in the SMG category, pretty much the same as all of the other ones aside from the FHR and the RPR Evo in assault rifle mode. Getting into headshots, it's pretty much the same as the other SMGs. Essentially, unless you're hitting every single shot within its 5 and 6 shot kill range, if you hit every single shot in the head, it will reduce the number of shots to kill by 1 shot, but that's not really realistic, especially within the 5 and 6 shot kill range, so essentially headshots are useless with the Karma. As for recoil, the Karma is a little bit weird when it comes to recoil. Sometimes it kicks just barely upwards with a little bit of side-to-side sway, and I would say it's fairly moderate recoil. Other times though, I see it kick really hard to the left and also upwards while it is kicking left, and that can be really weird and it definitely throws people off because most guns will tend to lean a little bit more to the right hand side when it comes to recoil. So having this strong left kick can definitely throw you off in a gunfight, but it doesn't happen every single time you shoot the Karma. It is to an extent random. Generally, I would say, just based on my experience in-game, as long as you're staying within the effective range of the Karma, within that 20 meters or so, recoil is typically not a huge factor in a gunfight, unless your enemy has a lot of cover and you don't really have a big target to shoot at. So that's going to cover it for the base Karma, and overall I would say this is a relatively consistent and solid mid-range SMG. It doesn't really stand out in the time to kill department, like I said. Having said that, it's not a terrible time to kill, so it's still very competitive at close range, but you want to keep things more within that 10 to 15 meter sweet spot with the Karma, and if you do, you're going to be quite dominant with this gun. Just be aware that sometimes you have to control that left hand kick recoil, and it can be quite unpredictable at times. So now that we covered the base stats for the Karma, let's get into the variants. And just in case you're wondering, if you're looking in the Quartermaster collection and you don't see any variants of the Karma variants are earned through mission teams. So it's in the mission team section, and therefore at this point we only have 4 variants of the Karma. The common variant is called the Glutton, and this one just gives you stockpile, which increases your ammo and stacks with extended mags. And essentially, this just increases your total magazine capacity to 50 rounds, so each one of the 2 magazines that you have in your gun will now hold 25 rounds instead of 21. And then your total starting ammo, including the magazines that are in the gun when you spawn, is going to be 151 rounds. There's not much to say about this since it's quite simple. I would say if you have no other variants, then you might as well go with this because it is better than the base. Getting into the rare variant, we have the Commission. This one gives you Headhunter as well as Focus. And with Headhunter, headshot kills will instantly refill your magazine, which I find to be quite useful. Like I said earlier though, the problem is with headshots, you don't get any added benefit as far as damage goes to hitting the head, or at least not enough to reduce the number of shots to kill generally. So it can be a little bit risky for going for headshots sometimes, but when you do manage to get one, it is definitely worth it because it instantly reloads your magazine. As for Focus, this reduces your aim down sight idle sway by 50%, which is very noticeable, but at the same time, you don't typically use SMGs to pre-aim a really small target at a longer range, so it does help a little bit, but at the end of the day, it doesn't help as much as it would on something like an assault rifle. Getting into the legendary variant, we've got the Kismet. This one gives you Gambler as well as Readiness, and with Gambler, a 3-player kill streak will earn you a random perk, and this can happen up to 3 times in a life. So every time you get 3 kills in a row without dying, it will just randomly give you a perk in game. But when you die, this does reset, and also there's a maximum of 3 perks that can be earned in a life. As for Readiness, this just allows you to reload faster when you're fully empty, so your reload empty speed is increased by roughly 40%. Overall, this variant doesn't really stand out to me at least. I actually prefer the rare Commission variant over this one. But now let's get into the epic variant, which is the Phobos. And with the Phobos, we get Rushdown as well as Sharpshooter. And with Rushdown, you get a greatly reduced hip spread while jumping and sliding. I used to think this would also steady your aim while you're aiming down sight while jumping and sliding, but that just isn't the case. It's only your hip spread, and it's a pretty significant reduction actually. Your hip spread is reduced by approximately 50% when you're jumping and 40% when you're sliding. So pretty big reductions here. If you are going to be hip firing this gun while jumping or sliding, this is great. If you're going for those slide kills for camos, this is definitely the variant to go for in my opinion because you get that reduced sliding hip fire. And also with Sharpshooter, we get a 5% increase to our range values, which is a nice little bonus. It doesn't do a ton, but it definitely helps a little bit. One last thing to mention with the Phobos is it has different iron sights compared to the other Karma variants. The other Karma variants have like a little dot. It's almost like a mini ELO sight on it. Whereas the Phobos has actual iron sights, as you can see here. This one just comes down to personal preference. I think it's still a great iron sight, but I would say it's not quite as good as the dot that you get with all of the other Karma variants. So that's it for all of the Karma variants that we have so far. Like I said, you can only get these through mission teams, and therefore there just aren't a ton of variants like some of the other guns in the game. Overall, I actually lean a little bit more towards the rare Commission variant over anything else, and I have all of these. The Phobos, I find I'm not really hip firing too often, so that Rushdown perk doesn't help a ton, and then Sharpshooter, that's a pretty minor change as well. Whereas with the Commission, having your magazines instantly reloaded for headshots is excellent, and also that idle sway reduction is very nice with the Focus weapon perk. So I lean more towards the Commission, but I still use the Phobos every now and then just because it is the epic variant and it looks kind of nice, and I really do like the iron sights of it. But like I said, overall I lean a little bit more towards the Commission. As for my preferred setups for the Karma, I really like just simply going with quick draw and suppressor or sometimes rifled barrel. I'll switch between the two just depending on whether I want to go loud or silence. Most of the time in public matches like in team deathmatch, I do lean a little bit more towards suppressor, but if you don't mind showing up on that minimap, rifled barrel is an excellent choice on the Karma. You could use a stock if you really like stock on SMGs, but I find I jump around so much so stock doesn't really do much for me. Foregrip could also be a somewhat viable choice, but like I said earlier, it's got very unpredictable recoil. So even though it's reducing the recoil a little bit, it's still going to be unpredictable, and therefore I find foregrip to be not super useful because it's either going to kick a lot or it's not going to kick very much, and that's regardless of whether or not it has that foregrip on there, so I tend to stay away from that. And that's pretty much it. All the other attachments I feel are completely unnecessary, like extended mags. It's just not for me. And with that, I'd like to know in the comment section below, how do you like to run the Karma? What attachments do you like to use? And also, what is your favorite variant of the Karma? Now before we wrap this up, I just wanted to say if you guys have missed any of the previous episodes, I will leave a link to the playlist down below. I've covered all of the assault rifles as well as a few SMGs. If you enjoyed the video, a like rating is always appreciated, and don't forget to subscribe for more if you haven't already. I'll talk to you guys next time.